topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, and I'm excited to be here with y'all. So, just as something like very exciting happened recently. So I know you've probably heard me tell so many stories about the AI, and it was very interesting. I had been building a few different agents, and as I was trying to create orchestration, which is one agent talking to another, and I find that there's a lag. Something is happening in the results and the output that comes out of my three agents working together. And I knew that AI was playing. It can go to play. And when it goes to play, I can tell you that it is going to make a difference, that the output will not be what you'll be expecting. So just want to bring it back and remember, no matter how far the AI goes, human in the loop, that is something that you need to carry it with you. You cannot just give or hand it over to AI without having human at the front and center. That is the key. And if you're looking to grow your business, growing your professional career, and staying ahead, because one skill set that I will give you is that it's not about what you know about AI as a tool. It's how you train it, how you build your metacognitive skills, how do you build your employees and your team's metacognitive skills around AI. That's the skill that will differentiate you. And today we are going to be talking about business because there's so many Gen Zs, so many millennials, and then so many people in the corporate thinking that this is not fulfilling me and I need to step out. I need to create something of my own. So that's what our guest is going to be sharing her wisdom about today. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So share with us if you recall a moment or a person in your youth or sometime in your life that left a positive mark on you.
Yes, my dad is one of the smartest men I've ever met, and I'm probably partial, but I was actually raised by an entrepreneur, a business coach who instilled entrepreneurial thinking in me from a very early age. And I had the pleasure to work with him for an entire decade of my career, and learning from building businesses and how to help businesses grow, but also how to grow our own business, because I was working very closely with him in business development and marketing. And so many of those things and lessons that I learned from him are what set me up for success when I decided to launch my own coaching business decades later.
So definitely it sounds like you had a great influence right there in your family, in your home.
Yes.
And what was it about entrepreneurship that attracted you?
You know, it's interesting. Like, I never had a different thought. I guess when I was maybe like I think when I was 10 years old, I really wanted to be something else. Like I wanted to be an American Gladiator. Do you remember that show with the people like battling it out, and it was all these women who were really strong and powerful, and they were battling it out in the arena, and one of them was a firefighter, and I was like, I want to be a firefighter American Gladiator. And then, obviously, I realized that's probably not in the cards for me, but I watched my dad have freedom. And he and my mom traveled extensively, and we traveled as well. I was homeschooled as a kid. But when I saw that freedom that my parents had, I knew that that's what I wanted. And so I don't know when I decided that I was an entrepreneur. I think it was like, it was always sort of in my blood. And so whenever I've thought about career paths, like that's always been one of the things. It's like, even when I went back to college and I was like, I want to work in one of those really cool advertising agencies where the cool kids are and everybody's creative. And I wanted to be in a creative field, but while I was in college, I got a job in an agency. And then within a couple years, I was like, I want to start my own agency. I
Mm.
want to, I want to make this thing happen because I think my brain works different from a standpoint of like, not only do I have like high risk tolerance, but I love seeing potential and like I want to take it as far as it can go. And I think I got that from my dad.
Yeah, and that is definitely one of the characteristics or the character traits of being an entrepreneur. Or at least, and if you don't have it, being comfortable with risk, developing that skill set. So tell us about your journey as to from, you decided you wanted to step into the coaching journey, have your own. What was it about that coaching that drew you? And when did it start? And just share with us the whole journey.
Yeah. So, I mentioned I spent about a decade working with my dad. So,
Mhm.
after I worked in an ad agency for a few years, I actually went to my dad and I was like, I wish that the owner of this business I work for would incorporate more consulting or coaching because I was seeing a business model that was like I was like this could be so much more profitable, like if we could charge high ticket prices to do things instead of just the hourly billing rate that we were billing for creative services. I was like, we've got strategy that is incredible. If we did more of that strategic work, this agency would make so much more money. And he said, why don't you come do that for me? And he's like, I love your enthusiasm. And he said, why don't you take some of that enthusiasm and bring it to what we do in our coaching? And so I became his marketing manager. I became his business development director. And then, and during that time, he became global coach in the year in the world's number one coaching organization. And so we did amazing things together. And he said, now I think, would you like to be a coach? And I said, yeah. I mean, I had put this pin in this idea of being a coach because when I was 20 years old, I had I had two babies by the time, like before I turned 21. And I remember folding laundry on my couch watching the Oprah Winfrey show. And there was this woman that came on named Cheryl Richardson, and she was a life coach. And she had this book called Life on Purpose. And I said, ooh, someday when I grow up, when I have life experience, when I'm like 40, I'm going to be a life coach. And then, less than 10 years later, my dad was asking, like, I would love for you to be a business coach. Why don't you, join the firm as a coach under me? And so I got my coaching certification. And then, but I was still working for him. You know what I mean? Like I was working really hard building someone else's business. And after about a decade working with my dad, I decided that I wanted to make a change and I wanted to go out on my own and do something entrepreneurial. And instead of launching a coaching business, because I was like, oh, I'm still not ready. I'm still not, I still wasn't confident in that. And because I had always really like worked under somebody else and I was really good at promoting someone else. And so my husband and I got into real estate investing. And we had success really quickly. We did 10 deals in our first 6 months as real estate investors. And the people and I had joined someone's coaching program to learn how to do that. And they recruited me to be a salesperson and a coach and start a podcast for the founder of that coaching organization. And so here I was, I left working for somebody else and got right back in after becoming an entrepreneur. I got right back into working for somebody else. And I realized after a couple of years, I said, I'm working really hard building someone else's dream. And this was a pattern in my life, is that I was working really hard to build someone else's dream instead of working hard to build my own dream. And it got really bad because I was on calls with women that I was coaching in their real estate coaching business, telling them that if you're working for someone else, you're building their dream instead of building your own. And here I was doing that very thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day I heard a podcast. Podcasts can change the world, y'all. So I love what you do so much. But I had heard this podcast where Amy Porterfield was talking about her book coming out called 2 Weeks Notice. And I was like, ooh, I got to listen to that. And she described this time in her life where she was working for Tony Robbins, the biggest coach in the world, doing amazing things with amazing people, and basically crying in her pillow at night because she was working really hard building someone else's dream. And I was like, that's me. This is my story. And I said, what do we do? And she said she sat in this room with Tony and these other coaches who were getting ready for a conference. And they were talking about what freedom looked like for them. And she said, I don't have that freedom.
Mm.
And something welled up in me. And I said, I don't have that freedom. And she said she went home and she mapped out a program and she put a date on the calendar. And she said 3 words that changed my life. She said, bet on yourself. And I grabbed a notebook and I wrote at the top of the page, what would the bravest version of me do? And I wrote about how I really wanted to work with women and entrepreneurs to do something to step into their confidence. And I put a date on the calendar and I called the people I was working with and I said, I'm so excited. I'm hosting this workshop and I've created this offer. And I'm really confident that I can do what I do for you and do this at the same time. And they said, no, ma'am. If you launch your own coaching program, you cannot also work for our coaching program. And so what did I do? I gave my 2 weeks notice and I decided to bet on myself. And can I tell you, in that moment, I walked away from $12,000 a month steady income with no plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was something in me that just knew that I was meant for more. And I was praying about it and I was like, God, you got to take this and do something because I'm going to show up and do as much as I can. But this is a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And within the first 6 weeks, I did $64,000 in sales. And women started asking me, Andrea, how did you do that? Because we were all flipping houses. And we're like, it takes 9 months to make $64,000 when you flip a house sometimes. And they were like, how'd you do that? So I said, okay, let me think about this. And I mapped it all out and I wrote down exactly what I did in that 6 weeks. And I said, come on, girls, let's go. I'm going to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just over 3 years ago. And since then, I've helped over 150 women launch their own coaching businesses. Yeah. And so I'm so excited today. I mean, it's just been over 3 years and we just hit $2 million in sales.
Bravo.
In business. Yeah.
Way to go, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank
because
you.
I can tell you, like, today, and if you are listening to this, whether it is live or if you are watching YouTube, or if you're listening to one of the podcasts, which is in so many different channels, know that if Andrea could do it, you can too.
Yeah.
So go bet on yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so powerful. So tell us, you achieved this, and then there's still so many women sitting, or men or women, doesn't matter, like, they're sitting on that edge.
Yeah.
They're on the fence. They don't know where to go. So what are some of the things, you talk about like doing niche. So now we are going to get into the beef of it.
Yeah.
If what is that success that brings in? So a lot of times, people say like have your niche because there's so much noise out there. So what is one of the best way to drilling down
Yeah.
not only what you like and love, but what is viable in the market as well?
That's a great question. And I think it's one of the most challenging things to do all by yourself. And so there's this concept of ikigai. It's the Japanese concept that means a reason for being. And in that concept, it's where what you love, what you are good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs, where all of those things intersect, that is your sweet spot to create a coaching program. And because it's got to be something that pays the bills. And I think a lot of times we will think about what we are passionate about, but it's not necessarily something that's as viable. And so one of the things that I like to add to that is I want you to look at who your current circle of influence is and ask yourself, what do they really want? What do they need? And so for me, I had accumulated a lot of friends on Facebook that were women entrepreneurs. And I just thought to myself, okay, what is it that they are really needing, and what do they want? Because we have to sell them what they want, but give them what they need, right? And so, in my background, I had done a lot of things related to lead generation. I had, worked in an advertising agency and wrote, strategy for marketing. And but my big success when I launched my real estate investing business was in referrals and networking. And I had learned a lot of really good lessons from my dad and working together with him, because that was his core strategy in building his coaching business, was referrals and networking. And so I implemented that when I launched my real estate investing business. And I did 10 deals in 6 months, and 7 of those were just from referrals and networking. So when everybody else was pulling lists and cold calling and door knocking and all these things, I was just working my network. And so I decided to create a program that was about how to double your income through referrals and networking, because I knew that I had a story, and that's important too. What's your story connected to what they want most? And so we look for what's either an obstacle you've overcome or something that you've accomplished that other people would want for themselves, and then ask, what is the number one result that I can help them achieve? And again, this can be really difficult to navigate on your own, but having a framework for that is really helpful, because we've got to think about those different layers of criteria, and we've got to choose a target audience that has the financial capacity to invest in themselves. And so sometimes, for example, I'll talk to women who have a personal history with overcoming, like, for example, an abusive situation, which is just like they have incredible stories. But if somebody tells me, I want to create a program for, broken, devastated single mamas, I'm like, and they don't have any money to invest in coaching. And so that can be part of your mission and your ministry, and we can find ways to serve them. But if you are in a place where you've got to create income, then we need to select a target audience that has the financial capacity to invest in themselves. And so we will look for, how can you take the lessons you've learned and the obstacles you've overcome and apply that to a target audience with financial capacity, and then find ways to be in service and in ministry for the target that you are really passionate about. But here's the key. Your personal story of overcoming and accomplishing something will resonate. You can use that story to encourage and inspire others, and create opportunities for the people that you're really passionate about making impact in. And that story will resonate with people who you can help achieve a different result because of the character that was built in you when you were going through that story in your life.
Yeah, your mess becomes your message, and
I love that. Yeah.
and then you're taking it and sharing it, because a lot of entrepreneurs feel sleazy. Oh, we are doing sales, and how can I offer? And that is that gap between the relationship with the money and relationship with themselves,
Yes.
where they're holding themselves back and not stepping into their fullest self. Because when you show up for yourself, you show up for others. So now let's say somebody has a niche, and then you brought up a good point that lead generation is one of the things that most entrepreneurs, I would say that 90 to 95% of entrepreneurs struggle. And having those meaningful relationships,
Mhm.
those network, as they
Mhm.
say, that your network is your net worth. Do you have any special experiences around network and referrals that you could share with our audience?
Yeah, it was a critical part of my success, and having success quickly when I launched my business, because one of the things that I did, so I mentioned that I started with a workshop. Very soon after that, I launched a free Facebook group. And I did something that I think most people don't think to do, or maybe like are nervous to do, but I was like, I can't do this on my own. I got to get my network involved. And so I literally picked up the phone and called 20 women who I knew also had networks that would benefit from what I was doing. And I asked them, I said, would you invite your friends to my Facebook group? I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm so excited. And they saw my launch and they were like, ooh, I love what you're doing. Go girl. And I said, would you be willing to invite, and it's so quick to invite friends to a Facebook group. You just click invite, 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 invite. And so very quickly, I didn't just have a Facebook group of my own connections, but I had 20 other partners that were bringing their friends. And this is what I did, because these were really these were good relationships. I said, I want to, I've launched this thing. I want you to see what I'm doing. I want you to be a part of it. And so I created um, like VIP members that were people where I asked them, could you do this and invite people to this workshop? And I want you to be a part of my coaching program as I'm getting started. Um, to like get to experience that, but I'm gonna like, in exchange for you doing this thing for me, I want you to be a part of my coaching program. And they were so excited. They were like, yeah, because the program that I launched with was just a $2,000 offer, which some coaches are like, ooh, that feels I mean, that feels like a lot to start with. And then there's others that are like, how did you make any money just doing $2,000 at a time? But I invited these women to not only help me fill my Facebook group and invite people to my workshop, but also to be a part of the coaching program, which made it feel like I had momentum. And it also gave me really beautiful testimonials. And so I started getting some of that third party validation very quickly, but it's because I intentionally reached out and invited people to participate. And I had invested in those relationships. And
Yeah.
so I don't want you to think that I just cold reached out to somebody. These were people that I was like loving on them, like cheering them on. I love to support people who are doing something brave in their life and in their business. My business name is Bold, because I'm like, I want you to be bold and create a life that you desire, and I'm going to support you while you do it. Come on, girls. And so they were super excited to be a part of it, but that gave a little bit of momentum to the things that I was doing. The other thing that I think was really critical to having success quickly was that I started before I felt ready. And so I started promoting a workshop before I had my entire program ready to present. I had just outlined the program, and then I started, and I was like, okay, what would be a workshop topic that would sell, like that would be a good lead into this program, so that it makes sense when I transition to an offer at the end. And so leading up to my workshop, I just focused on promoting the workshop, but I knew where I was taking each of the coaching sessions. And so I would give myself, a week to prep for the next coaching call. But I did not have everything perfect. I think perfectionism is one of the things that also holds us back. There's this fear of asking for money or asking someone to do something that makes them feel uncomfortable. And by the way, that's our own head trash. That is not, we project on other people that we're going to make them feel uncomfortable or something. But the reality is that people are out in the world trying to figure out how to do something and how to navigate. And if we're over here with something that we've learned that could be of service to others, but we're nervous that they'll be like mad that we're inviting them to learn along with us, it's just in our heads. It's head trash. So I started way before I felt ready, and I built it as I went instead of waiting until everything was perfect. And I think that's a really important piece of what I learned that other people that my students benefit from too. Because we call it like we always say messy is sexy. Like do it messy, do it. You're gonna get better as you go. We've got to put in the reps to get better. And there's no way to put in the reps without doing the thing. And so if we just are quietly working from our dining room table and trying to make this thing perfect, like we're not putting in the reps. And so the
Yeah.
only way to get better and to get ready is to take courageous action. And it's helpful to do that, if you have a little bit of guidance, but you've got to take action. You can't just wait to feel ready.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And what you're saying is that if you get so caught up in perfection, then you lose on progress. And as a matter of fact, I was just kind of writing one of my newsletters, and it resonated what you shared with me so much because I just wrote, I don't know if I published it or planning to, like, it's somewhere, but the title was Build the Room Before You Build the Product.
That's such good advice.
And
Absolutely.
the key is that as you have the community, because as you're building the product, a lot of people think like, no, I gotta have the product first. What you're saying is that you get to know the community, and as you get to know the community, they will set you up for success. Because recently we just finished our, probably a few months back, our cohort, and they were like, no, we don't want to leave this, this intimacy, this relationship, and this magic that we all create. And from that came a whole new program that we had no clues for. And bringing that curiosity, bringing that openness, create space for so many different things that you wouldn't know. So, talking about that, like, you built it as you were continuing to work through it. Now, once you have that, tell us what are some of the key ingredients in a successful offer?
Yeah. I think clarity is number one.
Mhm.
That's the number one, is making sure that you have a clear result that you are guiding someone towards, a clear result that they can achieve. And everything in your program should be leading in the most clear, efficient way possible to help someone get that result. So sometimes we have this idea that if I spend a longer amount of time with people, that's more value. And in some cases that may be true, but the reality is people want to achieve a result as quickly and efficiently as possible. And that is one of the reasons that they will hire a coach. And so when we can create things in our program that help them get that result faster, that's a critical ingredient. And so just as an example, especially with AI today, this is we're in a brilliant stage of history where we can give people even clearer, better guidance on how to achieve a result quickly, incorporating the use of AI in our programs. And so just as an example, like one of the things that I included in my coaching program that is to help women launch their own coaching programs is like a prompt for every key thing that they need to accomplish. I've given them an advanced prompt to make it happen faster. because I realized they were trying to do that on their own, because I had clear steps and a clear pathway. But I think if somebody was starting from scratch right now, if you map something out that you want to help someone achieve, create an advanced prompt for every key milestone. So having a clear result, clear milestones along the way that help them make that happen, and then as much resources and I would say information, but it's not all about it's not all about just teaching and giving people information, because you can find information anywhere. It's also like, what is it that helps them create the personal transformation so they become the person who will do the thing so they get to have the result. And so we've got to, in a great coaching program, we've got to focus on this question: who do I need to be in order to do what it takes to have what I want to have? And so making sure that if you're going to help someone achieve a result and you have a clear outcome that they're working towards, that you're not just teaching them how to do or giving them advanced prompts or a tool or a spreadsheet or a script, but that you're also helping them do the personal work that it takes to step into their confidence, to step into being an action taker, to overcome perfectionism, procrastination, and those things, that the self-sabotage that holds us back. Making sure that your program has a systematic way that you guide people through becoming who they need to be. And so those are some critical things to help someone have success, and that makes for a magnetic offer. And just from a practical standpoint, I like to map out coaching programs with 3 clear pillars, because our brain remembers things in threes. And so 3 clear pillars, and then I like to include like 9 steps. So we've got 3 pillars with 3 steps under each pillar. So there's a very clear way to navigate this program. And then when you present it, it feels like, ooh, she doesn't just know how to get a result. She's got a very clear pathway. And so I think that's something that's critical too. And I come back to that word clarity, because clarity is absolutely key for helping someone have confidence.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it makes sense that if you are sharing the outcome, which is at 2 levels, personal level, business level, along with the path, like, okay, why you're doing what you're doing, what you're going to get, and how you're going to get, you're addressing all the 3 questions. So technically, you're taking care of the objections that people may have.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really good. Like when you're presenting an offer, one of the things that I encourage people to do is ask yourself the question, like, what are the objections that someone will have for joining my coaching program, and how can I incorporate things into sharing my offer that overcome those objections? That's a critical piece of it. And so that's where I see the difference between a high converting offer and a low converting offer is, how am I doing at making sure that I'm overcoming their objections throughout as I'm presenting my offer. And that can be done in a few different ways. When you have incorporated things into your program that intentionally solve a problem that has been holding someone back, that's one way to overcome that objection. Where if, for example, if I don't have time is the objection, then incorporating things that allow them to get the result as efficiently as possible, and you're calling those things out, and even saying, I've created this for people who feel like they don't have enough time to get this result. And so we overcome the objections through the things we include in our program. Another objection people have might be the finances connected to investing in themselves. And so one of the things that we want to do while we're presenting an offer is share your personal experience, your own testimony connected to how this impacted your finances. Even if your coaching program isn't a wealth building category, I'm going to teach you how to make money, or I'm going to help you do something financially. There are things that create cost, that are costing us in our lives, in our relationships, in the habits that we create because this problem is not solved. And so when we can call those things out in our offer and truly get to a place where people understand what is the true cost. And so, like, for example, if someone's in a health niche, it is expensive to not have that handled. Because, if we don't take care of the problem, we're dealing with a bigger problem later that is a very expensive problem when it comes to our health. If we don't solve our relationship issues, that can create a very expensive problem later if we can't overcome our challenges and now we're facing divorce, or we are if it's relationship to self, even, because that is a category in relationships category is relationship to self. And if we are engaging in habits that are costly because we have not solved this problem. And for some people, and this is why, like you said, it's so important to listen to your audience, listen to the things they are saying. And so I encourage people, before you launch a coaching program, we're going to do market research. We're going to talk to people that represent your target audience, and we're going to listen to hear the words that they use when they describe their challenges and their greatest desires. And so, for example, if I speak to 10 women and 7 of them tell me how this is like what this is showing up as in their life, and they're like, I'm pouring an extra glass of wine every night, and I'm scrolling on my phone till 1 in the morning because of this thing that I don't have handled. Like I know that, or I'm shopping on Amazon. I got packages coming every day. Like, these are habits that are escape habits. And so if you're creating a program that allows them to create a life they do not feel the need to escape from, then we want to incorporate language that clearly points them to how your program solves this thing that's actually costing them. And it's costing them financially, it's costing them in relationships, it's costing them in their health, it's costing them in not accomplishing their goals and their dreams when they're engaging in all these escape activities. But if we can help them solve the thing that's creating the greatest stress in that category of their life, then it helps to also overcome that financial objection. Because what are we looking at? If we don't solve this, where's your life going to be a year from now?
Mhm. No,
Right?
and that's very powerful, because what you're also doing is the language that you're using is also filtering people out who are not ready for it, because you don't want people who are not ready, because you're not there to drag them through it. You are there to take people who are willing to come into themselves and willing to put in the time and effort, because it's a two-way street, it's a two-way partnership. So that filters out people to your ideal client, because you want to bring in transformation. That's what we as coaches are all about.
That's
We
right.
see
That's right.
transformation at the end of the day. It's not just
Yeah.
about finances.
Yeah.
So you have shared a lot of beautiful things, and I'm sure some of the women in our audience may be thinking, I want to connect with Andrea. So share with us, where can they connect with you, and
Yes.
about your program
Yeah,
and your book.
absolutely. So my website is andreaengstrom.com. And on my website, there's always a workshop that you can register for. Right now, the workshop is 100K in 90 days, how to create and launch your own coaching program. And there's also, I want to call this out just special for your listeners. There is on my website, there's something called Nail Your Niche. And this is where I work with you for 3 days for free to nail your niche, to understand. And I'm going to take you through that Ikigai process that I mentioned earlier, to really lock in your clarity around what is it that you have in your story that could serve others and that you can bring that to the world. And so we're going to lock in your niche statement as a coach, so that if you decide to launch a coaching program, or if you're already a coach and you're like, I want a magnetic message like she's talking about, I want to make sure that I'm going down the right path, then I want to encourage you to grab a spot on our calendar, and we'll talk to you and make sure this is a good fit and get you scheduled. And so my team will get you scheduled with 3 sessions with me as my gift to you.
Oh, thank you, Andrea.
Yes.
That's very generous. And so if you're listening and if you're interested, reach out and take advantage of this offer. And are there any other wisdom nuggets or anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're helping someone decide if they want to join your, whether it's a coaching program or a service-based business, when you're helping someone decide if they want to work with you, there is a formula for change. And the formula is it's D times V plus FS must be greater than R. And so what that says is their dissatisfaction multiplied by the clarity of vision for the future plus first steps must be greater than their resistance to change. So even if someone isn't sure if they're ready or willing, this is a process that you can guide someone through to be able to help them get ready, to help them feel that they're now in a place that they're ready to take action. And so when I described, like, I have a 3-day process, if someone goes through that process with me, they're going to experience the formula for change and how I guide someone through that formula for change. Before I ever invite them to join a coaching program, I want to make sure that they're super clear, and that clarity in each of those categories is what overcomes resistance. So if you're finding yourself in a place where you're feeling stuck, it may be because you're lacking clarity in one of those things, and your resistance to change is higher than your clarity of your dissatisfaction, your clarity of vision for the future, or your clarity of first steps, what to do. So I'm going to be modeling that for you as we walk through that process. But that formula works in any business, in any industry. You've just got to find a way to help people navigate it so that they will be ready to take that step with you.
Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for joining us. I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And thank you, wonderful audience, for being part of our family, because without you, the show would not be possible. Reach out like you always do. And I love your emails. I love your messages. So whatever's comfortable to you, I know some of you reach out to me on Facebook, some on LinkedIn. Just reach out and let us know how can we serve and support you so that you can live the best life you deserve. And thank you, Juan, for being a tech genius. Be well and take care until next time.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.